Hello, this is Tarregor. This video is a Twitch stream that was not edited, so it's going to look like a Twitch stream. Welcome to my vision of World of Warcraft Classic Plus. The design direction of my vision of Classic Plus is substantially different from that of retail WoW and Circus Shadowlands, and the private servers Vanilla Plus and Turtle WoW. This is partially because it aims to fix Vanilla WoW's many problems first, but Shadow Polish is already there second, and add new content third. This is part of a playlist of videos. Check this video's description for a link to the playlist. The document displayed is my vision of World of Warcraft Classic Plus, and the document's version number is version 1.5.16. All versions of the document are based upon patch 1.12.2 of World of Warcraft. That is the one before the Burning Crusade pre-patch. If you just want to know about the general design direction of my vision of Classic Plus, before you otherwise look into this, then watch the introduction video in this playlist, or review the document yourself and look at the list of major features. The link to the document is on the channel's About page. That, and I do not have a team of people, or however, working with me to make an actual private server out of this. This is all pure design thus far, and it ain't done yet. Now, first off, as I have covered in other videos in this playlist, all items in the entire game that had an item level above 65 were squished down to an item level of 65, and all raids harder than Upper Blackrock Spire, excluding world bosses, were turned into 40-mans, and I exclusively dropped item level 65 epics have a tiny chance for select items that are required for legendary weapon quest chains. So there's only going to be one tier of raids, and it's going to be hard. On Orlando, world bosses only drop item level 63 epics now. Now, also that the PvP ranking system is being replaced with a new one, and all rank-based PvP rewards are being nerfed to item level 65, though there will be more rewards. So rank 14 players can wear PvP epics in every slot but their shirt, and not just in several equipment slots like in vanilla. That and epic battleground rewards are being nerfed to item level 63. Now, also that world buffs were massively nerfed, and that buff stacking in general is heavily revised as well, and at the debuff limit was increased to 255, though said limit will be shared with buffs. Now, all that said, every class is going to have far less gear and buffs to scale with than they had in vanilla, so keep all in mind while you watch this video. Now, also that all flasks were changed, so that they will not do anything unless you're the influence of a flask-enabling spell. Each flask requires the player to be under the effects of a specific flask-enabling spell, priests get 2 of them, for the flask to have any effect upon the player. As you'll see according to the relevant spell descriptions as I go over them, these spells are intended to force players to only use flasks in certain scenarios, such as 40-man raids, in order to keep tryhardery on a leash. Furthermore, I actually changed how the spell damage scaling works for spells below level 20 and spells above level 20. I'm gonna briefly go over that right now because this is a spell damage class. Class changes. 7.2. Oh wait, 7.1. 7.0. Spells ranks below level 20 will no longer have their spell damage healing coefficients be lowered according to how much lower level they are, and 20 due to the below change. All spells will no longer be able to have each damage or healing value of theirs be increased by any more than 200%. That is triple by spell damage, or by double by plus healing. As such, because most spells deal a variable amount of base damage or have a variable amount of base healing, those spells will have a soft spell damage / healing cap, at which point the spell's minimum base values are getting enough that it can't have spell damage / healing, and a hard spell damage / healing cap, at which point the spell's maximum base values are also getting the most that it can of spell damage / healing. These limitations apply after coefficients and not before them. Do note the talents that increase the effectiveness of the spell by a percentage will also increase its scaling and spell damage / healing cap by those percentages. And here's some examples in case you want to read them, which you can do by pausing the video. Anyway, back to. Now, for the mobile viewers. Okay, now first off, the agenda. What I want to do to priests as opposed to how to execute it. I generally want to prevent Shadow Priests from becoming irrelevant in raids. I want to add more class. By the way, Shadow Priests actually were pretty irrelevant in Vanilla Classic after people discovered that they could just have a Holy Priest with, 0 an X/X/20 healing priests. Just cast 5 rank 1 Shadow Word Pains and then keep one up on the boss to keep Shadow Weaving up indefinitely without the the usage of a real damage dealing priest. Anyway, yeah. I want to prevent Shadow Priests from becoming irrelevant in raids in this Classic Plus. I want to add more class quests. I want to roughly equalize the alliances towards holy damage in raids, because I feel like it. I want to make holy damage priests have a slightly more complicated rotation. Since it lacks complication in this, it's easy to change, to some extent at least. I want to address... Well, not to some extent, but I gotta say slightly. Anyway, I want to address Shadow Priests going too quickly in raids. I want to make priests not use their wand as a crutch while leveling. I want to make no priest racial suck in general. I want to make no talent be useless when someone else in their group has it. I want to make rating specs be better at PvP without those specs being optimal PvP specs. I want to make PvP specs be better at rating without those specs being optimal rating specs. I want to make no talent be useless in PvP. And I want to make no essential rating talent be useless in solo play. Now the general priest changes the actual execution. First off, priests will only get 1 attack power per strength, seeing as how they do not have a good thematic reason to get more attack power per strength than hunters and rogues get. Psychic Screen will be renamed to Power Word Terror because I like the name better. More power words. The thematics behind power words that I made up is that people can actually say certain words with faith behind them, and saying that stuff will actually make things happen. It's actually all divination magic. Wait. I forgot what my headcanon was. Anyway, it's all divination magic. That I remember for sure, at least. It's all actually divination magic. Anyway. Illune's Grace will be renamed to Moonglow. The spell grants a visual effect of making you glow brightly for the duration of the spell. And while active, instead of increasing your dodge chance by 10% and reducing range damage taken by X for the duration of the spell, it'll increase the chance that melee range attacks miss you by 30% for the duration of the spell, and its cooldown will be reduced to 2 minutes. Furthermore, the spell will only have 1 rank obtained from the quest chain, and it'll have its mana cost be converted to a percentage of base mana, so that its mana cost is similar to how it was before when you weren't downranking it. A tentative change in the thumbnail, displayed in the thumbnail, Star Shards will be renamed to Moon Shards, and I'll have its description changed to hurls the cluster of Moon Shards at the enemy target, dealing extra by arcane damage. And its function will be changed accordingly. All ranks will have a 3.5 second non-channeled cast time with a 100% spell damage coefficient with no cooldown. This will offer an alternative to casting Mana Burn or Holy Fire in PvP, or even PvE. You can use it to set up against a crowd-controlled player. It'll give you something to fall back upon if someone interrupts you in shadow form. This version of the spell is far more useful than it was in vanilla, and if not being as good as it was in the Burning Crusade. Star Shards will also give you something to fall back upon if somebody interrupts you as a priest that does not have Mind Flay. Rank 1 will deal 45 to 63 damage. Rank 2, 86 to 103 damage. Rank 3, 153 to 183 damage. Rank 4, 220 to 263 damage. Rank 5, 202 to 363. Rank 6, 401 to 481. And rank 7, 496 to 596 damage. Mana cost, rating cost, and level requirements will be the same as in vanilla. All pre-tracial spell quests, when I get around to it, will be replaced with quest chains. They won't have to be long quest chains, but it's okay if they are. It'll help to flesh out the game. Mind Vision will require that your target initially be in your line of sight in order for the spell to work. Less players be able to perform various exploits, such as casting Mind Vision at the entrance of Blackrock Spire to check to see if Jed Rune Watcher's in there without having to actually go to where he is in order to check to see if he spawned or not. Do note that section number 11.0.17, our game mechanics, states that you cannot chain cast any combination of Mind Vision, Farsight, Eagle Eye, or Ornate Spyglass anymore. Oh, by the way, do things related to other sections. I just added that to the priest agenda. Remember to add that to the priest agenda. If it was not the case before, mind control will only affect NPCs of up to your character level plus 2. Hard capped at 1 level before the next rank, if applicable, in order to make sure that it's useful at every particular level after you get it. All priests will be given a passive spell of character creation called Test of Faith, which reads and functions as such. Whatever the hell it is you worship. Has half the damage that you deal with wands until you've proven that you can perform great works without using a wand as a crutch. At level 40, priests will gain access to a racial quest chain that tests their faith. At the end of the quest chain, Test of Faith, this spell, will be removed from your spellbook. So you'll be able to deal normal damage with wands again. Hex of Weakness and Touch of Weakness will reduce melee damage dealt by the greater of X or 3%, whichever is greater, whereas X is the patch 1.12.2 values. However, both spells will have a reduced chance to affect enemies above rank level, that is the level that you learn to rank at, plus 11, such that each level higher incurs a 3% spell hit penalty. This is done to be consistent with changes made to other flat damage reduction spells, and the level-based hit penalty is there to make sure that you don't cast rank 1 of the spell when you're level 60. It's there to make sure you actually buy and cast the highest available rank of the spell. Design does not stack a Curse of Weakness. Shadow Guard will be renamed to Voodoo Shield, and it will deal nature damage instead of shadow damage. Dispel Magic, rank 2, will be removed from the game due to other changes that I'll be going over in this video. Shadow Word Pain will be renamed to Power Word Pain. The Shadow School in the Priest Spellbook will be renamed to Void. New spell, Shackle Demon. Shackle Undead, except it works on demons. That's 30 seconds at rank 1, 40 at rank 2, 50 at rank 3. You cannot shackle a demon and undead at the same time, by the way. New spell, Chastise, for the High Elf Priests. By the way, I'm adding High Elves to the game as an alliance race, and Ogres as a horde race for the Stonewall clan. So yeah, Chastise, new spell, Holy School, High Elf only. It works just like in the Burning Crusade. However, unlike in the Burning Crusade, it abides by and triggers the global cooldown. For the time being, it has 3/7 of 100% spell damage scaling. High Elves got Desperate Prayer at level 10, Desperate Prayer at level 10, and Chastise at level 20 as their racial priest spells. Do remember that these High Elves refused Illidan's teaching to siphon mana from others, and that these High Elves stayed in Lordaeron after Warcraft 2 in the first place because they wanted to help the humans, whose treasured the holy light they adopted, so Chastise being their second priest racial is kind of fitting. By the way, Janaya, the Burning Crusade's rendition of Janaya were retconned out of existence, whereas the one that existed before the Burning Crusade, the Lost ones, are still in the game, and are the real Janaya that's Classic Plus. Anyway, this Chastise is subject to being replaced with an entirely new spell. It's just tentatively there. New spell, Hymn of Insurmountable Vitality. Disciplined School, Holy Spell Lockout. 1 rank, learned from a tome that requires all 60 U's and drops from Hymn of Insur. It drops from Prince Tortheldrin, and then Tome of Hymn of Unflinching Resolve drops from the final boss of Deathfall, which, by the way, that is not Darkon draft here because he's retconned out of the game too. He contradicts the existence of... he contradicts Warcraft 3, his very existence does. Anyway, yeah, Hymn of Insurmountable Vitality. 100%, costs 100% base mana. Requires some new Regan that has a base cost 1 gold. Regan Defenders, I haven't decided what will be called yet. 2-hour cooldown. 10-second cast time. Creates an altar in front of you that stands for 5 minutes. If you and 39 other level 60 players in your group all click on the altar, you'll begin the Hymn of Insurmountable Vitality. After 30 consecutive seconds of prayer from all 40 people, the altar will glow. This causes all in your group who touch the altar afterwards to be able to benefit from a Flask of Insurmountable Vitality, formerly called Flask of the Titans, for 2 hours, the enabling of which persists through death and cannot be dispelled. This spell overrides similar effects and will end early if anyone leaves your group. Or is kicked out of it, of course. Similar effects... Yeah, similar effects means all other Flask enabling spells, such as Hymn of Unflinching Resolve. These 30 seconds of prayer counts as channeling and can be interrupted, so make sure there are any enemies around you to cast this. This and similar spells cause players to only use Flasks in 40-man raids, World PvP, and Alterac Valley pre-mades. By the way, do not worry about pre-made versus Pug. I put a lot of changes into... I've made a lot of changes to the PvP stuff. A whole lot. So don't worry about pre-made versus Pugs anymore. This will wear off early if you leave a battleground. New spell, Hymn of Unflinching Resolve. It works exactly like Hymn of Insurmountable Vitality, except it only works on the Flask of Unflinching Resolve. What does that do, you might ask? Flask of Unflinching Resolve will be your new flask that basically makes you ignore one fear every 65 seconds. We lower its effects in detail in case you wish to read them. You could have possibly way. That's a flask of Unflinching Resolve does. This is a PvP flask. Now then, Discipline Talent changes. Unbreakable Will's debuff resistances will be lowered to 2% per rank to compensate for Martyrdom being merged into Silent Resolve. Martyrdom will be removed from the game. Silent Resolve will also give you a 4% chance per rank upon taking melee or range damage to give you a focused casting effect, preventing you from losing casting time when taking damage for the next 6 seconds. Basically, Martyrdom was merged into Silent, and the dependency upon receiving a critical strike was replaced with a chance upon taking melee or range damage. Do note that endgame crit chances in PvP may or may not end up averaging out at around 20%. Wand specialization, Priest, will be removed from the game. New talent, Last Hope, requires 5 points in Discipline talents. 5-point talent, passive, increases all non-spell damage by 10% per rank that you deal when you're silenced or have 10% or less mana remaining. Note, non-spell damage does include wand damage. This will encourage priests who take this talent to use a staff instead of a one-handed with an offhand frill. This serves roughly the same purpose as wand spec did, but only departed the purpose for when you're out of mana or silenced. As such, this is a greater effect than wand spec had. Improved Power Word Fortitude will be removed from the game. Improved Power Word Shield will be moved to the top of the Discipline talent tree. Improved Inner Fire will be moved up to the top of the Discipline talent tree and be turned into a 2-point talent, increasing its opponent's armor by 10% per rank. Inner Focus will also... Inner Focus, in addition to its vanilla effects, will render you immune to spell pushback, spell failure, and spell interruption for its duration because it makes sense, judging by its name. What is spell failure? According to the glossary, a creature of spell failure will have a chance to, upon casting any spell, for the spell to fizzle and incur the global cooldown, but not the spell's regular cooldown. All sources of spell failure, except for that for the talent, Lightning Infusion, will stack additively to a maximum of 100%. New talent, Improved Dispel Magic. Requires 5 points of Discipline talents, 2-point talent, passive. Reduces the mana cost of Dispel Magic by 10% per rank. Notes. This talent could be replaced with a completely different talent in the same position with the same cost, so long as it abides by the following rules. Number 1. It is not a talent that you would not want to have while someone else in your group has it, as opposed to when that ain't the case. If it is essential for raiding, if it is essential for PvP, it must also be useful for raiding, or optionally, essential for raiding. If it is essential for raiding, it must also be useful in PvP, or optionally, essential for PvP. The talent must not be basically useless in PvP. If the talent is essential for raiding, it must not be useless for most solo play. By the way, I might buff or nerf these percentages here. I haven't decided yet. Probably nerf. More likely nerf. New talent, Improved Shackling. Requires 15 points of Discipline talents. 3-point talent, passive. Increases the durations of Shackled Demon and Shackled Undead by 50% per rank. Notes, I could make this reduce their mana cost instead, potentially by 1/3 per rank. This talent can be replaced with a completely different talent in the same position, with the same cost, so long as it abides by the following rules, the same rules as for Improved Dispel Magic. Mental Strength will be renamed to Mental Stamina because it makes more sense to me that way. Divine Spirit will be turned into a baseline spell. New talent to replace Divine Spirit. Greater Dispelling. Requires requires 20 points in Discipline talents. 1 point talent. Enables Dispel Magic to dispel a second beneficial or detrimental effect per spell cast. Notes. Divine Spirit did not feel good to have when someone else in the group or raid had it, so I made it become a baseline spell and replaced the talent with an entirely different talent without buffing Priest too much. I didn't really have much design space here, so I actually didn't have any choices for what to replace Divine Spirit with until I thought this up. Shadow Priest could probably have used the nerf anyway. If I change it to do something completely different, then I want to re-add rank 2 of the spell magic to the game. This talent can be replaced with a completely different talent, the same decision, with the same cost, as long as it abides by the following rules, the same rules as for improved dispel magic. Power Infusion will also inflict the recipient with a red debuff called Overwhelmed Soul, which prevents the target from being a recipient of another Power Infusion for 3 minutes. This will prevent raids from stacking Discipline Creeps to rotate Power Infusions on their Paladin or Shaman tank so that he generates too much more threat than he is intended to be able to generate. Holy Talent changes. Spell Warding will no longer reduce your spell damage taken by 2% per rank. It'll instead increase your Fire, Frost, Nature, Arcane, and Shadow resistances by 10% of your character level per rank. This is 2/3 as much average damage reduction as before, except for this Holy, but it also allows you to resist debuffs because they're resistances. The stat. Holy Nova will no longer be able to heal more than 6 targets per spell cast, just like every other area of effect spell in the entire game. By the way, I nerfed almost every area of effect spell in the entire game to have a hard target cap of 6 targets. That's everything accessible to players, that is. Everything accessible to players. All items, buffs, and spells that are accessible to players were nerfed in that way. Except for Consecrate and Hunter Traps and Thunderstomp and one other move. I forgot which one it was. So yeah, it's a hard target cap of 6 targets, just like Thunderclap. Just like Thunderclap has a cap of 4 targets, and Warstomp has a cap of 5 targets. Yeah, this is done to get rid of Spell Cleave and Melee Cleave metagames forever. Well, in this case, Spell Cleave, actually. Searing Light will increase the damage dealt by Smite by 2% at rank 1 and by 5% at rank 2. And by Holy Fire by 10% at rank 1 and by Holy Fire by 20% at rank 2. This will give Holy Damage Priests a second button to push in raids, Holy Fire. Should they actually get invited to any raid, seeing as how Holy Fire had used to deal less damage per second than Smites. Inspiration will no longer increase the target's armor on heal crit. Instead, on heal crit, it'll give the caster a buff that makes your next heal, direct heal, including effects such as Crusader and Judgment of Light, but not life-stealing effects, upon anyone within 6 seconds, heal for extra hit points equal to 10% of the per rank of the amount healed by the heal that triggered Inspiration. Getting repeated heal crits will, as you may have guessed, make your heals get bigger and bigger and bigger. Letting it increase armor would mean that tanks would not need shields in raids, and that would be pretty bad for the game. And lastly, Lightwell's cooldown will be halved, and it'll no longer end early upon taking damage. This might make Lightwell not suck. This will hopefully make Lightwell not suck. Shadow Talent changes, now called the Void Talent Tree. The talent tree will be renamed from Shadow to Void. The rest of the design document has yet to reflect this, however. Spirit Tap will be renamed as such. Revamped as such. It'll be a talent to teach you to do a spell with 1 rank, below the specifics of that spell. Spirit Tap, 1 rank from the talent. Shadow School, 2% of base mana. Instant cast, 10-second cooldown. Marks the spirit of a foe that would yield experience if slain. By the way, there's an improved Spirit Tap talent. Marks the spirit of a foe that would yield experience if slain. The power of the mark is equal to 10, plus 40% of the damage dealt by your spells to the marked foe, to a maximum of 200% of your spirit, but 10% of the mark's power will fade away every second. When a foe marked by you dies, you'll consume its spirit, granting you mana equal to the mark's power over 5 seconds. This spell cannot be resisted. The name of its debuff is Spirit Tap, which is a red debuff. Its description is, gives the priest mana if he die. Fades away if that priest doesn't hurt you for a while. This spell will not trigger the global cooldown, nor will it abide by the global cooldown. All damage values are rounded down from half a second before contributing. All damage values are rounded down from half a damage dealt before contributing to the power of the mark. The intention of this spell is to replace Fear Tap without priests having to worry about getting killing blows, and without healing priests who just steal half of a percentage of a trash mob's health and damage before it dies, getting anything worthwhile out of hitting that mob, or then a tiny bit of time save. When the foe marks why you die, not when you get a killing blow on it. Every priest that casts this on a mob gets a separate debuff. Casting Spirit Tap on a target that you already marked will return an error message and not cast a spell. The mana gain over 5 seconds is passive, and so it does not make the priest stand there and channel a spell or some shit to get the mana. Until it gives you a 5-second buff that cannot be dispelled, which stacks like, which forms a new stack with each buff. Applies a different effects with each buff. Separate effects with each buff. Yeah, those are better semantics. Design note. Spirit Tap, Ancestral Gift, and Divine Gift had used to cost 5 times more mana. I don't remember why by now. New talent, Improved Spirit Tap. Requires 1 point in Spirit Tap. 4-point talent. Passive. Increases the mana and maximum mana granted by Spirit Tap by 38% per rank, technically 30%, to a maximum of 38% rank 1, 75% rank 2, 113% at rank 3, 150% at rank 4. Shadow Affinity will, in addition to its vanilla effects, reduce the mana cost of all of your shadow spells by 1% per rank, and it will no longer reduce the reduction of Fade. This will make the talent be worth getting in PvP, and it not nerfing Fade just makes sense. Design note, the Shadow Priest damage reduction could stand to be made more interactive somehow. I don't really know what to do about this yet, but I'll get to it at some point. Or at least I plan to. Shadow Weaving's proc chance will be reduced from 20% per rank to 5% per rank, but instead of attempting to proc upon spell application, instead of attempting to proc upon spell cast, it'll attempt to proc upon dealing shadow damage with your priest spells, so not Blade of Eternal Darkness, for example. Therefore, Shadow Guard and Touch of Weakness can proc Shadow Weaving. Oh wait, I forgot, not Shadow Guard, because I made that deal nature damage. So Touch of Weakness can proc Shadow Weaving. A single Mind Flake can potentially proc 3 stacks of Shadow Weaving, and etc. This is being done to prevent a 13, 18, 20 healing priest from getting and keeping 5 stacks of Shadow Weaving on a boss single-handed by just casting 5 rank 1 power word pains on the boss at the start and another one every 30 seconds or so, and therefore making Shadow Priest be irrelevant in raids. As I mentioned earlier. That's what it was, 13, 18, 20. Anyway, next up. The positions of Darkness and Shadow Weaving on the Oh, by the way, 13, 18, 20 is considering vanilla specs, not classic plus specs. But that's just for an example. Anyway, the positions of Darkness and Shadow Weaving on the Priest Shadow talent tree will be swapped. This is to be extra sure that Shadow Priests do not become obsolete in raids. Improved Fade, in addition to its vanilla effects, will reduce the chance that you are hit by melee and range attacks by 8% at rank 1 and by 15% at rank 2, both while you are faded, making the talent not be useless in PvP or solo play. Improved Vampiric Embrace will, in addition to its vanilla effects, cause the priest to gain mana equal to 20% of the amount healed by Vampiric Embrace per rank, including by how much it heals those other than yourself. And overhealing, making Shadow Priest not have mana issues in raids anymore without giving them much mana in PvP. Vampiric Embrace will only target up to 5 party members per heal and be a smart heal a la chain heal. By the way, it also targets you, so that makes 6 people, including you. This does not mean that the same person will ever be healed twice by the same heal triggered by Vampiric Embrace, as each damage value will always attempt to heal, well actually each triggering value, so in this case damage value, will always attempt to heal 5 different entities. But if there are less than 5 different people to heal, then additional heals will be wasted. This will prevent Shadow Priest from getting placed in groups of Warlock demons and to throw 100 pets just to get more mana out of a Vampiric Embrace. Silence will be a prerequisite for Shadow Form, ensuring that raiding Shadow Priests can have that essential PvP talk in their raiding spec. In their raiding spec. Spells with the Holy Spell Lockout will be disabled while in Shadow Form for purely thematic reasons. On a related note, however, these changes will also be made to minimize the impact that this will have upon their gameplay. Shadow Form will also grant you 23 armor per caster level. Shadow Form will dispel Inner Fire, Power Word Shield, and Power Infusion from you and prevent those spells from affecting you for the duration of Shadow Form. Priests that know Shadow Form can also learn a spell from their Priest Trainer at a talent spell discount called Void Barrier. At the old talent spell discount called Void Barrier, whose function is identical to that of Power Word Shield, except it is not affected by the talent Improved Power Word Shield. It can only be cast on yourself. It can only be used while using Shadow Form, and has a 15-second cooldown, and does not stack a Power Word Shield, and does not afflict you with Weakened Soul. Shadow Form will be renamed to Embrace of the Void. The rest of the design document will not reference this yet. Dispel Magic will be moved from the Holy Spell Lockout to the Void Spell Lockout. Moon Shards and Moon Glow will be moved from the Arcane Spell Lockout, to the Arcane Spell Lockout if they weren't already there for some fucking reason. I would assume that they are already in the Arcane Spell Lockout vanilla, but just in case they aren't. Anyway, that's all I got for Priest. The next video will be on Warlocks. Thanks for watching.